developer, we have to ensure that we are successfully able to integrate into Launchpad. If we are not failing to integrate, it's like a half process done. So we build application, but we will not be able to deliver it. So these are all actions or activities are essential for delivering the application. So now yesterday we'll just we're discussing about catalog groups. Let me um, quickly recap. So just to recap, so any idea, first of all, identifying application from, if it is Fiori apps, we have to identify from apps library. Then respect to services, we have to activate from SACF, we have to activate UI5 applications, and then we have to activate OData services. So these two activities we have seen for Fiori apps. For custom UI5, additionally two more steps would be there, where creating launchpad instance, nothing but the launchpad which we are using it. So first of all, we have to create an instance. Only then we can have catalogs groups, then we can deploy onto them. So for creating a launchpad instance, we discussed that we need a LPD custody the T code to use. And once we have the role of PFCG role, they call it a PFC role. So once we have PFCG role, then we'll be able to access specific other transactions, like if sometimes if the PFC role doesn't exist, we'll not be able to activate the application, etc. So PFC role is something which is essential as a developer. If we have certain T codes access at least, then we'll be able to perform certain activities. So for creating catalog and group, we have seen that we have something called Launchpad Designer URL, and this URL will be common for any landscape, but the prefix would be, you have to ensure that this prefix corresponds to your front-end server. So if you have front-end server which specifies the specific port and etc., then you have to use your IP and port combination to form this particular URL according to your scenario. Then once we have it, then we have seen that we have the page of catalogs and groups. So till here we was seeing it, and we were just seeing the configuration there, and the rest of the steps, even for the custom apps, activating and UI5 apps as well as OData service would be the same. So there is no change in it, but additional steps would be these additional 3 steps. So we just understood what are catalogs. So for HR model, if you have 100 apps, then we can group them into a catalog. And according to the department, we have seen that we can 10 apps, we can call it as a single group. So we can call it as payroll group, and similarly 50 apps we can call it as hiring group, etc. So we have seen that this high level classification allows us to organize our tiles, etc. in our final launchpad shell as such. So till here we were trying to understand, and apart from Fiori apps, any kind of apps, if we want to give it to end users as a tiles, so if for end user, the entry point and exit point will be always here. With the help of roles and with the help of specific restrictions, etc., based on group which all T codes are necessary, we can group all those T codes along with the UFI apps using the Launchpad Designer tool. So this is what we have seen, and let's continue further steps here. So one more important point we just try to mention: whenever we are making a configuration, we have to ensure that we have a customized request available and all the customized requests are captured, because if we fail to do that, chances are that we have to redo all the configuration steps again. So in this case, because this we are just doing in the mock system, we need not to have any customer, but in real case you need to ensure that you have a valid transport that to customize a request. So it clearly specify that you need a customized request. So this is first step. Then we'll do the activity. So I think yesterday we gave a name of HR catalog. See, this is how we have defined HR catalog, and we created dynamic tile. So if we select a dynamic tile, we created a tile name, etc., and we given an icon. Then for dynamic tile, if you wanted to refresh the content, I mean how long, so the interval will set, and then the count URL will specify. And we have seen that from UI to SEM object, we'll create a semantic object. Main purpose of semantic was to mask the URL, etc. And here most of the other actions are either if you want to auto populate any parameters, etc., only those will be there, and you save it. So you'll get your tile ready. Then you have to go to target mapping. Then you have to create a target mapping. So in the target mapping, again the semantic object. Once again, we'll select the semantic object. So in this case, I'm taking any existing already created one. All you have to do is there's another. We have to give a proper name. If the same application tile, whatever name you're using, maybe you can use the same name, but you have to define it in the UI to sum object. Then only it will appear in this particular list. If it doesn't appear after creating it, once again refresh this launchpad designer tool, then automatically it should fetch the fresh details out here. And action is just meant for identifying what kind of activity you're doing. If within the same app, if two users are there, like employee and manager, we want to suppress certain functionality, then action will allow us to identify to while configuring. So okay, these in this only display only access we are trying to give. So you'll if you have in the group same group, you can create multiple tiles. So if you have a supplier group, you can create multiple tiles there, and one could be display only access, and other could have um, if manager is accessing etc. So we can enable to modify etc as well. So that's why the reason action is the same application we can have multiple variants. So action allows us to identify specific applications while configuring etc. And to restrict in specific devices, this is how we restrict. So you can, if you uncheck it, it will be restricted from access to those particular landscape as such. And auto populate, we use these parameters. And this step we stopped yesterday, where right now we have to first ensure that we should have a launchpad instance. By launchpad instance, whenever we wanted to give it, we have to use this approach. And if you go with this approach, it will ask for launchpad role, launchpad instance, alias, etc. So I think use of this type is deprecated. See note, yeah. So here I think now they are deprecating this approach as well, because now they introduce a new transaction altogether, where they are simplifying it. Here the catch is now groups and catalogs, which you're saying. And now we got one higher order, like in Fiori 3 design. What they are trying to do is they are creating something called spaces. So here also we'll have spaces instead of tiles. We'll have spaces. So there's a change as well. So we'll understand this step. Then I'll just say in Fiori 3 onwards what additional steps we have to do. Okay, those steps are not officially out, but we'll try to understand what additional activity we have to do. Okay. So this has already been Fiori 3, a part of Fiori 3. This is S4HANA system, right? So they have already announced that this is will be deprecated, and you have to refer to this node to do additional steps as such. Okay. So as on it for Fiori 2 till at least, you have to go to Launchpad Cust, and then we have to do. And if you select a Fiori app directly through URL, so suppose we deployed into the cloud or anywhere, etc. So if you want to manage it, so straight away we can give the URL as well. So standalone URL by using it, but than this, it is more secure to use Launchpad Cust, etc. Because there you have tight control of and URL will not be it will be masked etc. But in this case also it will be masked, but it has additional checks as well. Okay, URL is like anybody can try to whenever it goes to the tile. For non-SAP related, we can use this particular URL approach, but for regular approaches, we can opt LPD cust. Okay, and for transaction URL, so transaction web info are meant for classic GUI scenarios where we don't have any UI5 or Fiori app, and we want end users to use still the old T codes, etc. Then we'll give the specific T code, and web info specific web UIs, anything we have, then we can specify those web info screens as well. So anything we can redirect. So let's select Launchpad Cust, and for Launchpad role, we have to go to. So I'm logging into my front-end system. So you're able to follow it. So what all actions we are trying to do?
Yeah.
So LPD Cust is a place we have to go because this is a Launchpad instance. So here, if you see, there is a new Launchpad. And here there are like standard SAP shipped one and custom ones. So standard SAP Fiori apps, SAP itself will ship. All we need to make sure is we have the right authorization, etc. Then we are good to access all the apps. when we do the steps, earlier steps for the standard Fiori apps, directly activating, etc., automatically your SAP instance will be available. But for the custom UI5 applications, we have to create, for the custom apps, we have to create our own instance. So end users will always access same URL, but we'll have separate instances. If you have two different teams, everybody can have their own launchpad instance, so that you will not affect their changes. Suppose by mistake, if you have just one instance of launchpad, problem is you might mess up with other tiles, etc. If accidentally someone accesses the wrong tiles and they try to modify, they could have similar names, closely resembling names, etc. So instances allow them to ensure that they are creating for their own. Now suppose you're representing payroll department and you are managing 10 apps, then you can create your own instance for these 10 apps. So the other team department where for hiring someone else is managing, then they can you create separate instance. So that's how launchpad instance allows us to manage individually. So now first and foremost, I'll just you can create just new launchpad, and existing one I'll just try to show you. So once we create it, let me show first a new launchpad. So if you see here, it asks for role, instance, etc. Here you can give any starting with Z. All these are Z object, and just mention it Z demo LPD. So you can give any name based on the scenario, and then from the instance you can select as transactional. So all these are transactional apps as such. So you can select transaction. You can give a description that HR apps. And namespace, etc. You can keep it as is. So yes. So if you, the moment you create it, if you see on the top, this is your launchpad role, and this is the instance as transaction. If you see this, you have to make a note. So Z demo LPD is the uh, role which we have to use. So in the role space, the moment we create it, so now we have to select. So we have to refresh again this page, if at all, and then accordingly the role will appear. Now you have to search the role from here. So in this case, we have a role, any existing role. I'm taking it. So the moment we create this role, so we have to select the role there. Then here we'll individually each application, custom application, what all we have prepared it. So we have to start creating our application. So I'll select this folder HR apps. Now for the payroll department, what all apps are required, I'll try to provide it here. So here I'll say this is a manage timesheet maybe. So we can give a description, manage for payroll. Okay. And the application type, we have to select it as URL. So if you see here, different types of you can set it up. If you are using any web info, etc., then transaction, etc. When you're configuring there the transaction, likewise we have to come and select a transaction, etc. But in this case for us, we have to set as URL. All the Fiori applications are browser based, so we can select as URL. And uh, here specifically what we give is here we have to specify the path of the component. So in our application, if you go back to your application, so in the application we have a structure. If you see here, so this is our web app structure. In this application we have something called component.js. Okay, so component.js, you have this particular prefix. So what are prefix you have it? So here you have to pick that particular prefix. So in this case, I'll try to show you existing one which I already created, so that you can relate to the context. I'll delete this instance. So I have one here. Let me take this. So if you see here already, any of the existing application configured one, just I'm trying to show. So we can specify the SSCF path which we have, right? So the Z application name. So this is a Z application name, and the application name followed by the path name. So if we even during configuration for the standard apps, what we were giving is was giving the same path. We are giving the same path, and then we are giving the name. So here also, whenever we are deploying it, we give a Z name for the custom UF app as well. So the Z name we have to give followed by the SSCF path, full path. So once we have this full URL path specified of the SSCF node, then you have to click on additional parameters. Then if you expand it, we have to give one application alias. Application alias is just like masking this particular URL. So how we gave semantic object one masking. So for the application alias, instead of this URL, we always call in the system using this particular name. So you can give the same BSP name itself as application alias. And additional information section, you have to specify SAP UI.component and the prefix in the project, whatever you have in the component file. For the component file, if this is a prefix, then you have to give the prefix. Ideally, it will be our namespace followed by application name. So make sure that cases, etc. are same, no uppercase, etc. Whatever you have in the component file, the prefix, just copy as it and put next to SAP UI.component and then specify it here. So in this case, I have SAP.HL.ux. So likewise, you can prefix it. And that's it. Here you need not to specify anything. And if you wanted to application nobody can actually remove from the launchpad, then you can check mark this one, this tick box, so that nobody can remove that particular application. If you want mandatory that payroll team to use these particular applications, you do not want them to go to standard app, etc., then you can tick mark it. So because timesheet you have standard one and then you have your custom one, so you can make this as mandatory so that it will always appear and they cannot remove from their launchpad. So once you are done it, so you save it, it will be captured in your transport. Now we have all the application alias we have the launchpad role. Now if you come back here, if you see, these are the parameters which asks you. So in this case, launchpad instance, we have selected a transactional. So here you'll find transactional, and the launchpad role which we created back then. So on the top you'll find, and this is the instance. So both instance and role you'll find it here. You just have to provide it here. And application alias for each application whichever we configured, I said to maintain the same custom UFI Z name, whatever you have given, the same name you have to specify it, and you have to just select it from this drop down list. Clear? So you're able to identify it from where we are getting those values, etc. So in this case, if any specific is available, then it will appear. And we can give our application ID. Application ID again from the manifest file. Manifest file you have ID, right? You can specify this particular ID directly. So you keep it unique and to uniquely identify, and you can use this particular ID as well here, application ID. So once we have this information saved, then our catalog is ready. So for all the applications, we repeat the same steps. So once we have it, you'll find your tile. For the tile, we are saying how we are linking SSCF. So SSCF we are activating, right? Now in the tile, this is how in the launchpad instance and role we are by specifying it. We are linking that path with the tile. So we have successfully linked it. Now in the group section, what we do is we can if out of this we want to group into three different users are there. So for each app, maybe one user is using it. So we'll start creating groups. So group also same plus icon. You can say now as a payroll department. Excuse me.
Let's see.
So we have we'll give the name as Z. Again, like I said, catalog we have given C, right? We can see as G. So Z, technical group or etc. And you can give name as a payroll team, right? So this way we are creating our own. So make sure to remember always these IDs. You have to make a note, because for giving authorization, we have to share this particular catalog ID, and these are our unique ID. So if you want to assign for suppose you are from payroll team and I have to assign these apps, how do I assign? First, I have to assign you for your ID. Suppose you have an SAP ID, then I have to assign you this catalog ID. I have to assign to your ID. Along with that, I have to assign this group ID as well. When I assign these two, then I identify that you belong to payroll team, and automatically you'll see those apps when you log in. So that's how uniquely we'll identify which app, which department, etc. So you understood right now. So by sharing these IDs to the basis team, they'll be able to assign you this particular app to the respective departments. Okay, there is like additional things I'll discuss in a moment. And here there's an option whether they can personalize this group or not. So if they wanted to remove or anything manage their group, etc. If out of 10 apps, if they do not want to use certain apps, so should we allow them to personalize it? You can always give us personalize. Anytime they can re-add those apps out of the 10 apps. Whenever they can want, they can use. And even if they want to remove for the temporarily also, they can remove as well. So we create this way group, and so we have our group as well ready. This is just a subset. Out of 10 apps, here we'll create multiple groups and we'll just organize them in as per the role. So if you, as your task, if you are going to do which task you are going to do, so that only those apps you'll see. Now here on the header, first you have to select the catalog. Now we have created HR catalog. You can search for HR catalog, and this is our catalog. So if you see TC HR catalog is the name we have given, and we have configured approved timesheet, right? So it appeared. So if you have configured multiple apps, you have to just create it. If we have two apps now, we'll create two groups and then we can assign it. So under this particular section, it will automatically appear. Now if we refresh it, it will automatically, it has to appear, provided if we have authorization, etc. And how do we check if new catalog, etc., if we have to assign, etc. From server, if we clear cache, automatically appear. Here this is an option called edit homepage. Okay, so if you see here, you'll see there's like add group. So now new group, we have given it anything. So if you have to check, etc., any group or all, you can select okay, this is meant for creating your own custom group. Let me come down. Okay, so in the ESV they haven't given the, I think, edit option. I'll show you in this landscape. Okay. Okay, it's they haven't provided it here. Okay, app finder. In specific versions, different way they have changed it. In this first, previously we used to have everything in one place. Now in app finder you will find. So app finder is nothing but your catalogs. Here currently for this role, they assigned this catalog. So if you see, this is how, if we created HR catalog, right, the catalog name appears. And under the catalog, we'll have these groups. I'll show this in other landscape. So in the trial landscape, you may not be able to see. So if you see here, I have some. So the application which you have seen in the Launchpad instance. So here we have three applications. So the same instance. So if you see here, we have three applications, right? So those three applications are these applications. And for each application now we have the target mapping, etc. Okay. So for there are like semantic objects, etc. Likewise, how we have defined it. And for this corresponding, there is a group. So if you see here, there's a group, and within the group I have created as these styles. Now in the Launchpad, if I go to the Launchpad, this is how it looks. And here I go. See, in ES5, we do not have, limited catalogs are there. So I'm trying to show you how we'll have the catalog, etc. in a different scenario. So just it will be the same. See now, if user if they find this once we have share it with these catalogs and groups with the basis team, they'll assign to the you have to share which all users maybe business will share when we move to the production this application. They'll share the list, so for who all users which all tiles will be used. So we'll just share that list. So these are the catalogs and groups you have to assign to this particular users. So according to the role, once we assign it, the moment you assign, they'll be start seeing their own catalog. In this case, purchaser catalog is assigned, right? So in the purchaser catalog, which all apps they can assign. So if you see now, I can uncheck this particular, so just unpin it. Then from purchaser, if I unpin it, and wherever if I want to add etc, I can add. So it's got unpinned. Now if we want to add this one, I can add, and I select this particular action, and automatically that will be added there. If I have to unpin this, I can just have to unpin from this way. So the moment I unpin it, it will be removed. So it's as easy that, so end users can directly check if they have access to those apps, and then directly they can remove. So if you see now, some of the apps got removed from here. So it's just selecting the catalog. For end user, he'll in the app finder section, automatically they'll find their relevant catalogs. All they have to do is which if they want the app, they can just select it. If they do not want, they can just unpin it. That's it. So this is how end users can start using the apps. So all apps which are available to them, they'll find an app finder. So simply they have to select which all apps they want to do for day-to-day activity. They can directly select those apps. So here, if it's loading, let me show you. For the cloud scenario, we need not do anything. All will be shipped as standard way. So there we need not to worry at all. So based on the version you'll find. So in this version you'll find on the right, whereas some older versions you'll find on the left. Okay. So almost it's same thing. Only thing is you'll find the different kind of UI approach. So same app finder you'll find it. So here you had app finder on the right. This is based on the version, options are same, you'll find. So now if you see, you have lots of catalogs here, right? So we'll be able to find all our whenever we create it for end users etc, we'll find respective catalogs. So
nice, by the way.
So this is easy way. So in general, you'll find for the demo system, they might restrict us. So any changes we do, we may not be able to see. But in real, when we start creating it, this is how the catalogs will start appearing. And end users, simply they can just, if we have this one, now let me see if, yeah. You can search for any directly catalog name, whatever ID we have, directly we can search with catalog, and directly we can enable them, disable them. And one more way is, see, this is a catalog, and sorry. And how do we manage the groups? So to manage the group for app finder, you'll find the catalog, and to manage the group, you can go to edit homepage. So groups itself, if any new app has appeared, so you can simply do reset to this group. So if this group has been assigned to you now, if you reset it, any new changes or new apps or anything appeared, or if we have added later, suppose we added first two apps, if they reset it, automatically the new tiles will automatically appear. If they don't appear also, if they have access, they can select plus, and automatically it will take them to the respective catalog etc, and they can simply pin and unpin it. So this is how easily we can deploy our catalogs and groups into the launchpad. Clear?
Yeah.
So I think this is it, how the theory. Next sessions won't be more theory, because that's how the administration will be handled. Whatever it's the way, the same way we can actually explain it. So I'll show you the, in the real way we have seen. So in a nice organized way. Now for the front end server on the on-premise itself, we have talked. Okay. So the Fiori apps, we talked it. So go to catalog, sorry, Fiori apps library, identify the app, and based on is ERP or anything, identify it. Activate the check for front end back end, activate it, done. So Fiori apps are done. For the custom UI5 app, you come here, you go to Launchpad Cust for creating a Launchpad instance. And if you have authorization PFCG, then you'll be able to create your catalogs and groups. And for each app, create an UID SEM object so that it will mask your individual application, and come back to Launchpad Cust, create your own applications, and make sure you are using the component prefix in it. And then you come back to a catalog and you start mapping the system alias, launchpad role, etc., which are given for each of the apps. So the semantic object created in the UI2 transaction, we are still again configuring the launchpad URL. So launchpad URL is a place where we'll do the catalogs and groups managing, etc. So this is the admin tool for us. And once we configure the catalog in the group section, if you go, if you created 4 or 5 apps, etc., then you can select here. If you select it, only those apps will be visible. Suppose you are still work in progress, it's in the beta stage, etc., you haven't yet, you don't want end users to see those apps, etc., then you can just uncheck it. So if you select it, those styles will not appear to them, only the selected ones will be visible for their groups. So that's how we can have specific control using catalogs and groups. So this is all about admin managing apps, one created app. And there is one more specific thing generally we do, like managing the theme and adaptation, etc. So like extending apps, etc., managing theme. So managing theme, we have something called UI theme designer. So UI5/themes is a T code. So if we use this T code, so this is like part of client customizations. Client customizations, so any customer will customize a theme. So to manage theme, we use theme designer. It's a very I'll discuss at length some other time, but see how we can transform the theme using theme. Just I'll show you a quick snapshot for just illustration. So we by default SAP ships the standard themes, but if you see here, this is customized to blue as per the, so ideally SAP ships their theme. And if you see here, using theme designer tool, whenever we ship the theme, so like how we have Gmail templates, etc., all the themes will be available for the customers to select. So I have customized to one theme for a specific this is customer. You can just check out how it looks. So for specific areas we can do it. Yeah, this one. So if you see now, so this is how using theme designer I have redesigned this, and this is how nicely it appears for all the applications. And you can change the look and feel, and you can the logo, etc., you can customize. So it's all as like branding access. So apps, etc., once we are done, then the final activity like client customization. So specific to client, we can change the look and feel, etc. So it looks more appealing.
Is like something we use via SAP delivered options, or something that we are creating from the scratch, the theme?
These are, yes, see here also the launchpad, the themes, etc., we don't generally create everything from the scratch. We have to use either, now for the Fury 3 we have to use the standard SAP theme, that is Quartz light or dark. You have option only to choose either of them. Why I say is, they're like, I'll tell you the reason. We cannot create from scratch because it affects all the apps. It's not, the theme is not meant for just one app. Theme is nothing but this is all CSS. We have seen in CSS how we can drastically change the calculator example or anything. So the same affects the business apps. If you mess up any CSS class, because you will not be have control of, just I'll tell you why I'm saying this word. Let me show you, then probably we can better understand. So you go to tool section and then you have theme designer. Okay, so you can just click on this documentation, and then there is one more, it should be there. Yeah, theme parameter toolbox. So you just select theme toolbox. All are in the UFA tool section itself. You can explore. So you see, you can have to select this particular theme as such option. So now for the Fury 2, if you are running on, you'll have something called two flavors, Baileys and Baileys Plus. Older one was in Fury 1 uses blue crystal theme. So these are like base themes. So each base theme will have some standard CSS classes. So we know how to create a basic classes. But for Fury 3, if you see, I select this particular as theme as Fury 3. And this is what class based approach. Using class based approach, SAP has shipped one standard for branding. So everywhere when you're seeing blue, this is a CSS class you have to use. So it uses this particular color. You see, there are like thousands of CSS classes. If you have to create from scratch, you have to make sure none of these are affecting. All these places you have to manage individually. So chances of managing are failing are more. That's the reason we select this base theme. And for the base theme, using theme tool, we just change the colors. You're able to relate now.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and this is the reason why I ask not to use your CSS in the application, because always the precedence will override to the SAP CSS classes,
Right.
and you have no control from the application, because these CSS classes are meant for all apps, not just your apps. Maybe other teams might be using, maybe standard SAP might be using it. So our CSS classes are used by multiple applications. We should not create our own CSS black, because CSS, the parent CSS classes, there are like thousands of CSS classes available, and anything can override our behavior. So we cannot predict the CSS behavior. It might appear correctly for you for the time meaning, but if someone else goes to theme designer tool and they change it, they think of, like now I have modified the theme for specific department of home care, and if anybody manages it theme individually for specific apps, because of that other app, your app also can be affected because you have used your own CSS. So that's the reason in minimalistic cases only go for minor CSS. But anytime you wanted to do any CSS activity, please use theme designer tool only. So clear. So here also I'll show you theme designer tool. Yes, I think I have to activate it. Okay. So this one from the trial we can use it. For now, let me show you. So how the theme designer looks. So the moment you open from the transaction UI5 theme design from your front-end server, so this will automatically load. You can then bookmark it. So I have already opened, and you frequently use transaction. I just bookmark it so that I need not to go back to T code. So for this also the login screen will be, or authentication will be launchpad. If you have logged in here already, automatically the same single sign-on will be affected and it will automatically read it. Even same applies to launchpad designer as well. Launchpad designer for managing, we are using it, right? So all this single sign-on based on, if you have opened this ES5 system, you have to use the front-end server credentials itself to authenticate to respect to systems. All these services will be available on front-end. These are front-end components only, not on the back-end. So make sure which system you are making change. Now, like the question you asked, right? So we have the standard theme this way, and they say if you choose create new theme, it all takes up, asks you to select one base theme. So in this case, on top of Billy's, you wanted to modify the colors, or on top of Fury 3, you want to modify the colors. So as per the SAP server here, they don't have the Fury 3 as of now, right now. Okay. So for some web info screens, you might need, web info specific theme. But for the UI5, we have only Billy's, Blue Crystal, and Quartz theme are applicable, and high contrast are available. These are meant for, you have certain what we say, color blindness, etc. For them, if you do not want to give any colors, etc., always every technology they'll give this black high contrast, only black APS, only white, etc. But specific cases, now you'll select the base theme, you select create theme, then it will start creating one instance of it. Now on top of it, we can start modifying it. So here it asks you to application, so you can give your application, or you can give your launchpad URL, anything you can give. So if you want to look and feel of a specific application you want to see, you can select specific application, and then for that specific application you can give the URL. So if you give that URL, you can check how the theme appears for that particular application. So in this case, I can say test app and select add. So if, I mean, for which application we want to see this theme got applied, if you are making changes, we can see preview how it appears for this particular application. This is just for the preview purpose, we are selecting it. Ideally it will apply for all the applications. You need not to select each and every app, you need not to do. So only once we do it for any one app, and the theme applies automatically to all the apps. Okay. That was meant for only just for the preview. When we are doing the activity, it will show us that this is how the each area of that particular application changes, etc. Now if you see, we have this application here on the left, and we have a panel on the right. So on the right we have many options. If you see, we have something called quick area, and quick area will allow you to tweak in, theming activity. You can change the complete look in single 1 to 2 days activity. So you can change the logo. If you want to change the logo, you can just drop your logo image of your customer, and then you are automatically, instead of SAP branding, this SAP space, it will go away and it will show you your own logo. And then I'll show how we do, etc. We'll explain. But to explain what all elements we can change, so the brand color whole, if suppose the customer is black, so suppose if you take any example of Aditya Birla Group, I'll take. So Aditya Birla Group here, if you see, they follow complete these particular color options. All the logo, whatever colors you see, the branding, etc. Throughout, you'll see these particular colors: the chrome yellow, and then the red tinge, and then this brown tinge as such. So we try to, what we have to do is, there are like simple approach as well. Why for theming, you can use any color picker options, and you can just open your paint or anything, and you can quickly grab a snipping tool, and then just take a snap of it, copy it, open it in your paint or anything, any paint tool. You have something called color picker options. You can just select it, and you got this color. Now you edit in the color, and you'll find the HSL RGB values. So we can add this as a palette here in the theme designer. So you see here there's an option called palette. So here what we'll say, we'll specify those values. Now in this case, I can specify the values. So here I need hex values. So I'll go for paint 3D. They'll give me X value directly. So instead of again converting the RGB value, etc. I'll copy this. I think sometime back I explained how we do this activity. Just for illustrating purpose. Now you can go to brush tab. Here you have color picker. So now whichever color is, now we want to have a red color. Just double click it. It will give you the hex value. Copy this. And because every time instead of visiting it, you can add it in the palette, so that anywhere theme wherever you want to change the color, automatically you can. So we can say this as red shade. Okay, save this. So identify the colors of the customer first, and apply the same to all the app sections. So that's what we are trying to do. Now we'll pick one more color. We have noticed that we have this particular orange shade, etc. So let's pick that color as well. So I'll try it. Okay, this, I'll close this paint. So paint 3D, I'm using it. So I can pick this orange shade, double click this. I got, and then I'll add one more plus icon, and I can specify all hex value starts with hash, say orange shade. Likewise, you can specify all the colors. So once you know the brand colors, so these are the brand colors, they call it as brand colors. So if any other color, black shade you want to take, you can take. So all the color options which you notice it, so you can, likewise, even these colors you can pick it up. So picking up is just like I mentioned, you take a screen grab, or see, generally we don't do screen grab, etc. Each client will have their own brand guidelines. So specific customers will have brand guidelines, I think, brand color options, etc. So you can ask for one if they have anything, and then straight away they'll have a hex guide, etc. So which all colors to use, which shades to use, etc. very precisely. If you do not have, still you can use precise colors by way of picking up. So this picks exactly the same colors, hex values. Sorry. So in this case, now once we pick this up, so this names, etc., these colors, etc., it will be easy. So now these brand colors we identified, you can start picking those, adding those brand colors. So straight away, always you can copy it and then paste it here. So if you see, when I paste it, it start appearing. So you got the change over everywhere. So you can see the preview here, and how it appears in desktop, mobile, etc. You can check it. So original app, always you can check it, and on the preview section you can see the change. Now similarly, I can change for the red shade I want to go. So these are the brand colors where we are setting it. in the same color it got picked up. Uh, I just didn't add it, that's the reason. Now it will copy. It's just this is not, just it's not allowing me. Okay, let me pick it from here. 30. So it's all, we'll not touch the CSS classes. We'll only directly modify the colors because it's like automated. So because when we give it here, it changes the theme across all the 1,000 CSS classes wherever it is used. Now, if you see, that's the advantage. So highlights, whenever they're highlight currently, if you see, automatically it got changed at everywhere. The brand color, once you had specified it, earlier it used to be all blue, and now everywhere it got changed automatically. So that's the advantage of quick tool. So this quick section will allow us to tweak very quickly. And if you want to give any specific for the shell, etc., you want to change anything. So the background, etc., opacity, if you change, it will appear little more less vibrant, etc. And we can reduce the density of the color, etc. And we can change each. So for the tile, if we want to check how it leaves appears for the tile, oops, I clicked the wrong action, it got closed. Because we are given launchpad URL, the back automatically has triggered the back of this particular window back. So brand colors will change by using theme designer. We can manage all the 1,000 CS colors at one shot. So that's the flexibility of theme design. So it's it's just personal choice. So how effectively you are able to change the color options, etc. Based on that, you have the option. I think this is the theme. I suppose name. I should have checked the name. Oops, this is not the theme. If we have saved it, we would have uh, exactly redirect to the same theme. So it's like plug and play tool itself. So if you just understand, I'll just show you what all options we have. So if you know it, you can do it straight away. So we have one access as well. I'll just share you how to get access to that as well, and you can play around with this. See, all these are like process oriented. If we once we understand the process, etc., then we are good. So how do we use it? If you understand, then doing it is pretty good. So close this. This is the wrong one. Let me show you how this looks. This is anyhow managed by me. You have to just double click it. It will automatically open. I'm just showing you how I have changed into this complete change, etc. This one which I have changed already. So just let me show you that. So if you see, likewise, I have changed the logo, etc. And then some brand colors I have used it. I created my own palette, etc. And if you see different shades of colors which are used. So I used canary yellow, etc. and bottle green, etc. I have named it them. So there was standard names as such we have for standard colors. So I use those colors and automatically highlighted area, shell area, etc. So gray area. So I'm showing it gray because I want to stand out the text, etc. So I'm using gray here. So each shade for the tile area, when we wanted to have a tile area. So for the tile area, we can specify which color we want to have the tile. So if you see the tile here, they're appearing blue. So if you want to only change the color of the tile to different color, etc. So you can change the color here. And the application background right now we are leaving it as this is what is shade. If you want to have some background color, so I just would no, do not want to have background. If it's too much of bright, we'll not be able to read the text, etc. So I just left with the plain background. So I left the background. You can even tweak the background as well. And each area, group section area, header section area, list section area. So we have all the areas, for icons, what color exactly. So in this case, you see green because I have set the icon color as green. So you can set and play around with each section, etc. So here in the quick section, you'll find all the classifications. One important tip for theme designer is we have something called this particular option. If you see here, this is really interesting one. There's a second tab of paint. We have something called expert tab. So here, if you select this particular icon, and if you see here, the moment I selected magnifier glass, it will closely to see. If you select this, automatically your CSS classes will be filtered on the right. So directly, if you want to make change instead of textual, so now if I want to make change to button, I just have to select this magnifier glass and click on this which item you want to change the color. Now it will show you all the CSS classes which are affecting this particular region. Now I can just change these parameters and all the buttons will be affected. And similarly, if I want to make a change in the title, I click on title and the brand color, etc. at the where we used, automatically the dependent CSS class will be shown and we can just make the change of the color. If you think our CSS class, we are not touching the CSS code at all. We are just touching the colors and we are just managing it. If you want to have, so this expert mode will be very useful. Here there are classification of only colors you want to filter it out further, or the layout dimensions, etc. and the text, etc. So text if you want to change, etc. So specific way you can filter, but you can always set to all, and you can use this magnifier glass to pinpoint which area you want to change the color, and you can change the color. For additional custom CSS, if anything we want to add, here we can add the custom CSS classes. Maybe our use case requires some CSS class, then we can create our CSS class here using this tool. If you create the CSS classes, they'll universally apply to all the apps. So that's the flexibility. Whenever we are creating a CSS, you have to ensure that CSS should be applied to all the apps, not just for a specific app. If you are applying for the specific app, chances of the CSS behavior can be affecting other apps as well. So from this section, we can directly use custom CSS, but 80 to 90% cases, all you need is plug and play tool. Just select the drag and drop which control you wanted to make a change. You're good to change. So a quick mode, simply by changing these basic colors, I achieved this whole theme. I did not do any single line of code. If you see, there is no custom CSS at all. All I changed was the parameters which are there. Right.
Wow.
It appears as if we have to write lots of CSS code. We have seen how to write CSS code, so we know we can write even CSS. So there's no problem of writing CSS. But the problem is it affects all apps. And SAP ships in a standard way. So all this 1,000 classes, etc., whatever we have, everything will be smoothly, updated and modified. And this will be at runtime. So you can switch the themes, because if you want to use this theme, customer doesn't want to use this theme, he can how we deploy. I just didn't mention it. So you go to theme option. You have to do just like test build or save build. And moment you save it, again it asks you to with the transport, etc., and then it will be saved in your object. And you have to move to your production. Once it is moved, or in your dev space, the moment you save and build, automatically it will appear under this list. Automatically it will come into this list. If you see the themes which we have seen there, all the themes. So customer, which theme we want to ship, we can provide option. So it is customized to user. User he doesn't like the theme. He wants to stick to SAP theme. He can select SAP theme and use SAP theme itself. So it's like user, we are giving some client specific customization. We are giving user an option. So they are like good to have. They are not mandatory, or they are not something which stops your business. So these are like additional activities which we can do to make customer happy. So these are not any technical part. These are just anybody can master. Only thing is you need to just understand the controls, where it affects the color. If you have applied too much of wrong colors, it completely spoils the user behavior. So always we use base theme to make changes. So I think this is all about we have one quick one. So the GitHub, I added one new file called project tracker. So this progress tracker. So you can, because if I'm missing any sections or anything also, we should not miss out doing activities. So if you open this particular tracker, so here what all accesses we are covering it so far. Okay. In the template, I suppose you can create your own tracker. So far, these are the accesses we should have already be familiar with, and we should be able to progress. What we can do is like each activity, I'll just list it out here. You can try to practice the order, and we'll keep adding it. As on date, we should be able to do these 8 activities as such. So what are those activities, etc. Already you're familiar. And if you present it this way, you will have a track whether you have practice or not. You can update it. So if you are having practice or if you're stuck with any questions, you can ask me. And corresponding GitHub. So each project where you're placing it, you can use a GitHub repository URL, so that later on when you have to refer to this particular code snippets, it will be easy for you to access. So where you have practiced this particular thing. If you see HTML, CSS, JavaScript, we have in HTML we asked to use W3 School. For all these three, you can use W3 School controls and practice in any case. In calculator you are practicing, or any bill, or any digital CV. So for any of the use case, if you have practiced it and the code etc. you have it, just keep it as done etc. so that these access will be done. And we should be able to already do one simple program. Like if you should take a freestyle application, you should be able to add margin classes, padding classes etc. We have seen login app, right? So login app you can consider as basic app etc. And any UI controls you are practicing, you should be able to add. Should select freestyle template, and you should be able to play around with the template. And all you in order to practice, you can use either Northwind service, or in the application guide I have given 6 to 7 services. You should be able to get an output using the template wizard. And for the Fiori element based, where for it's meant for quick development, we have annotations in the OData service for certain services. So you can select those services, and ready-made complete Fiori element application also you should be able to do. So we have 2 element templates, layouts. When I say layouts, if you see here, we have the layouts, right? So application so this involves no coding. So these are like template will automate generate you. On top of the template generated code, you can play around it. So this gives you like up to 50% of the work the standard templates will do for you. They'll set up the folder structure, they'll set up the basic layout, etc. So try to understand the flow if you so that if you are mastering this regular flow, then we can reach 50% of the development part. So in elements, now what I'm trying to say is we have some templates. So this template like list report template, work list template, and analytical page, ORU page. So you can ignore ORU page, list page, because they need some additional annotations to be added. But whereas for the regular list and work list, standard OData service fields etc. which are available will be sufficient. I'll explain in detail how to modify annotations, how do we change etc. in detail. But these two you may not be able to do it yet. But these two, the list report and object page, you should be able to play around. So you have to select this list report, and you have to, when it next when you do, if it prompts for a OData service, just give Northwind service, or the any application developer get the service. So this way you should be able to do list report and work list application. And in the freestyle section also we have like if you select the drop down instead of elements, if you select freestyle, you should be able to do work list application, or for approval scenarios we have seen manage, approve etc. Those scenarios straight away, this application you can build without any effort, with least efforts I mean to say. So we have approve purchase, so manage products etc. If you see this manage products, it is master detail template. So master detail, they call it in latest is flexible layout. So the layout straight away used is flexible layout. So if you have OData service running, then you can 80% of the application can be built straight away using by selecting this master detail template. You select next, and then you select the OData service, and then only use the mandatory one which they ask. Do not fill out other fields; those are not necessary. You have to just select connect to OData service and provide your OData service URL. Or if you are running on application in Business Studio, you can select SAP system, because we have configured the destination automatically. It will point to the ESY system. Okay, so here in the local, you'll not be able to use this particular option. You'll be able to use only OData service option. Here you have to give the URL. Now, if I have to use Northwind, etc., I can just give this particular URL. If I give this URL, so automatically I'll be able to quickly create a nice application. So it will ask you to select. So these are you can consider all entities as tables available. For now categories, I'm selecting it. So it asks you to select category ID, etc. You can select some name. So it by using these fields, etc., automatically uh, description none. Okay, I'll select none. So intermeasure also none. I'll select products. So these are like, if you understand the template, then which fields where they appear will understand. You will be able to figure it out. So for now, you can just play around with drop down whatever it prompts. Just try to select it and just see the output. Once you understand how the code gets generated, etc. Only this, try to change it. Don't keep it the same name. You can say, as if you're practicing Fury element, name it as Fury element, which are layout, list report, etc. One. Then we Fury element 2, freestyle 1, freestyle 2. So you can just give it a name. And in the title, you just mention, if you're using list report template, make it as list report and give a namespace. Always remember the same namespace, because we'll use it to access our URL, etc. So
Hey, wait to see what namespace we used before, because I think I've been like trying to get this GitHub going, but that's kind of completely messed up. So the more and more I try to push that whole project, it's just not go. I'll try to work on it myself today and maybe tomorrow, and then if I'm still stuck, then maybe I'll send an email to you
sure,
later.
sure, definitely. So I good practice is I always use UX. So because this is a common problem. We don't if you use unique names for each app, the problem is you cannot remember the name, right? The
Mm.
problem is, if you are somewhere you're maintaining an Excel saying that for this application this is the namespace I'm using, this is application name, fantastic, fine. But for to make it easy, always use something which you remember. Like I use UX as a namespace, so I always remember the project name would be my module name, and the names would be UX. So UX dot what are the project name? In this case, if it is login app, login page. So I need not to go to manifest and check. So these changes will affect everywhere. So if you see
Mm.
ID is nothing but namespace followed by your project name.
So if I change the in the manifest.json, if I change that name to something,
No, no, no. You have to do it at the initial only, because it's updated. If you see any page, it affects in many places. If you change in manifest, it affects only one place. It doesn't change at every place. If you see the component name, which we configured in our launchpad also, it uses the same namespace project name. That's why in the wizard, when we're giving it, please make sure that you use whatever you're using it, stick to that till the completion of the application.
and I'll show you, like, I have found some new way to screw this all up. So I'll try to I'm kind of deleting, like I have deleted like that GitHub repository like for I think like some 20 times,
Okay.
because I'm trying to freaking connect it, and I know you helped me last time and we set this thing up, and then I was trying to what is that thing called, push or stack or something, right? You got to stage
Stage.
it, right? Stage it. So that
Stage.
thing is not working. I'm trying to like refresh it, and then guess what? Finally, and then yesterday you told me, right? Just freaking delete that GitHub repository and create a new one.
Correct.
I tried to create a new one, and now I'm trying the commands one after the other, but not they just don't want to talk to each other, you know. Uh, so I will try to fix them up and then see if you want to talk. Otherwise, I have to take your help. I have to bug you.
Sure, sure, no problem. See, if you want, I can assist you now. So, or you wanted to try yourself, because see, if you're stuck for long, then you'll master it. See, advantage
Yeah,
is if you get output successfully when the first time, you'll not explore more options. Yeah.
because the first project folder, right? So I was thinking like, oh, you know what? I wanted to try to. So I have a project in the SAP Dev workspace, right? So I
Okay.
have it over there. Then I wanted to go into the Visual Studio, and then I wanted to set up like kind of like either import it or kind of like set up the GitHub to it, right? So so first to do that, I have to first push the project to GitHub, right? So
Correct.
that's the place where the two doesn't want to talk. And then the SAP says, no, I recognize the old repository you created. I don't know
Okay.
what is the new repository you're talking about, right? So
Okay.
that is where it's stuck.
Okay.
So I
So
created a new repository over there, and it doesn't uh, recognize it anymore. So my last command, right, the commit command, that one is ending up in the error mode.
understood. So probably what problem you would face, let me show you. So I have given this series of steps. Okay.
Mm,
For when, see, if you follow, these are like any options we can skip. So personalized token you have given, it may not ask you. So try to do these steps in sequence. See, always, if you do these steps in this order, no matter whether it's new or old one, you'll have a smooth flow. First, it asks you to authenticate who are you. So just give it like git init is like you're initializing for the first time or second time. Always you can use git init and you can say this is my I am the this is my repository. So so your email of GitHub, then you can set git remote. So if it's already set also no issues. You just set again. So if already exists, then it says to use this particular command git
mm,
set URL. So in your case, what problem you faced, right? So it might have pointed to the old URL, repository URL, or maybe you are using the correct one, but you might be using in the projects. If you have two or more projects, try to use always one single project in your
You
workspace.
told me, you also told me that many times.
Mhm.
So, but I don't, well, yeah. But this is promising. I'll try to follow this. I'll try to introduce them again and then see if they want to talk.
Okay.
Uh,
So here, what is this? Even though if it is any URL, is if you if you are sure that you have already linked Git URL, because from the base of it, you'll come to know. In the BAS also, if you see on the bottom of it, it will show you current repository, what are the repositories. If I have a BAS open, I think I haven't opened it. Okay, and fine. So in the here in the bottom you'll see, right. So in this case it says as master. If you click on this, it will tell you like in this case if you're able to see my screen on the bottom, it says as login page. So it is point to the login page repository. So
mm,
I can just come and go to my GitHub. I can search for here as login page. So I have to make sure that I'm login page, the moment I select it prompts you. So this you have to jump to, so you can just select it. It will take you. Ensure that your URL or anything is correct. If not, you can just copy this again and
so,
try.
quick
Yes.
question on that. So, I'm not able to find the that link here because I tried to add and README at the time I was creating the repository, and so all I have in this branch is readme.md. That's all I have.
That means
Uh,
you have to first push it. Your changes are not there in the GitHub at all.
mm,
First of all, you have from anywhere, all the local files. Your files are in the local itself still. You have to
mm.
publish them. First, you have to do push in the sense. Okay, let me show you this deck. So I think in this tab it is there. So here you set this URL now. So no issues. You have empty, right? So it asks you to git remote. Just if it is the first time or new one, you will always have this repository link. Just
Mm,
set the URL, then it will tell you to add the changes. Either you can use this command or you can go to your this third option where you have here you'll find all the changes. So it
mm,
says add the changes, right? You could have many changes. So using this approach may not be, you'll not be able to tell if you're having 100 files, you cannot do manually one line, right? So we take the help of this third step. We'll take the help of this plugin which we installed in the Git as well. In the Git SCM you have installed, right? So technically
mine
speaking,
has M there.
mm, so in the BS it will be by default you'll have. You need not to worry. But in the local copy, if you have Git, then you'll see this particular UI. Similarly, how I am having right now. So here you'll see the word got changes. If you see it says staging the changes. So what you have to do is stage the changes. So stage the changes, how we'll do? Select this one. If you have multiple, just select this plus icon. That's it. Staging is done. You see
Yeah,
it?
I
It says
tried to
this.
do that. It just hangs in. It doesn't do anything. So then I had to undo it. But let me try one more time. So I think that I was. I'll take my last chance and see if it's gonna work.
Yeah.
I get an M there. That's it. An M
Okay.
letter M there.
Okay. Why the problem could be is if this authentication or URL are not set. Step one, step two are not. Maybe if they are error, just check in the console what error they are throwing you. So if it ends up in error, if you though you might have entered the command correctly, but you have to see. Sometimes we saw yesterday it asked to delete the UI5.pyml. So I think previous class sometime we are seeing. So sometimes the commands could go in error. In the console, check if the last log, what it exactly says. Whenever you're running it, if you click on this tab, you'll find the output section and you'll find the tasks here. Okay, you can go to the recent Git where you have run your commands like git init, etc. Check if there are any errors, etc. Then you'll be able to pinpoint what exactly. If it is authentication, you can correct it, or if it's a URL, wrong URL, then git URL you can reconnect again using this particular command. So you can use git remote again, or if it is, if it's a different URL, it doesn't show your URL, then use git remote add. Add command will add new, it will change existing URL. If you use set URL, it will ensure that you are using the correct path, etc. System, we are just instructing it. Okay, please set it this particular repository to this particular URL, which where I'm trying to push my code. So if you are able to stage the change,
yeah.
so git commit, you can use this command, or again you can write the message here. You write the message here, or using this command, if you write the message, both the same. So here it says you are saying git commit m, and then you are giving a name, right? The same name, if you enter it here directly, you can say my second push or something. Okay, second commit. So this message will allow you to roll back to that particular state. So keep it more meaningful. Now I can say, like, few changes. What are changes I've done? I might have added some such, etc. So added such logic. I can just say this tick mark I can select, so that it got committed. Okay, and commit is done. Now you again come back to the step here, then it says now it's time to push the changes to Git. Commit in the sense you just saved it. It's not published to your GitHub in your outside where we have it, right? Now we are trying to push it. So you have to do git push origin master, this command. So how do we run it? Make sure, go to your project, you select your project web app, then right click it, say open in integrated terminal. Ensure that you are it is pointed to your folder, this particular login page. In this case, our application is login page and web app. So here I have to say you have to copy that command. I'm sorry, resize it. You have to ensure that this says as git push origin master. Now all your changes are you use the git there. Now you see it is starting pushing to the my GitHub. It says successful 100% counting objects. All the changes which are there, it pushed to this my repository. That's it. So subsequent times, first time when you set this up, always all you have to use is these two commands. If you want to push it, use this command. If you wanted to pull it, I mean, if you suppose you have done in your BAS, and in the local copy you are trying to do, what you have to do, you have to pull it from the GitHub. We are not pushing to GitHub, we are pulling from the GitHub. So you have to do git pull origin master. So subsequent times all we use is these two commands, either push or either pull. That's it. Simple. So if you want to use command based approach, here I have given command as well. All the commands you can use commands in this sequence. So what a sequence, yellow highlighted one, right? Follow this sequence. It will try to solve you Git challenges which you are trying to face. It's all common. Initially we'll face, everybody, even I have faced lots of issues. Even now also, so one or the other time they'll try to bug us a lot, but it's common. Okay. So idea is try to practice. If you're stuck, do share the screenshot. I'll help you out.
Sure, absolutely.
And see, typical cases, everything I try to document it, because what are issues I faced, I try to I have refined this after I have played around with these tools, etc. Then I try to what common problems we face, I try to put it in the same order. Why I kept Git on the first is, Git is, if you master it, you will preserve your code because trial edition you're using it. It might be after 1 year, after 30 days, they might revoke your code. But if you're putting it in the Git, you are saving all your work. If you have done 6 months back, 1 year back, whatever you're doing, it stays with you. Okay, so you are able to preserve your code, your work, today's work you're preserving for the longer run. So mastering this will really help you out for in many other ways. And I think, and even you can use Git below. If you see, you can check here. You can do just refresh button here. If you see, it says refresh button. If you select this, it is like, do you want to commit and push to the origin? You can simply say okay. if you don't want to run that push command, you can use this one, a reload button. It will automatically push all the changes to your GitHub. You have to make sure that the right branches are clean.
On the git add, what is the parameter that we have to give after add?
Push. Git add, no, you have to select the file name. So don't use that parameter at all. For that, use the UI itself. Git add, you have to say this file name. Now in this case,
It's like mine is a folder, right? Because last time the web app folder did not get moved to the Git, right? So this time I'm just starting now at the project login folder, right? The parent folder. Can I use the parent folder?
no, it will not take the folder. You have to specify each file.
Oh.
That's the problem. That's the reason. See, if you see now, you have to give git add formatter.js. Okay, then it will understand that you have want to push it. Here, even you have flexibility of, see, there could be 10 files. You don't want to push all the changes. Just you can select single file. Okay, if you let me show you, if I have multiple files, if I modify it, so in the component also I'll just remove some space, and it will consider as a change. And then if I go here, I could see now 2 files. So if you want individual file, you can just stage only one file. So in this case, only one file is staged. If you see, still this change will not apply. So I can commit only one stage. I mean, I can commit only one change. If you have 10 files, suppose you do not want certain files to be pushed into GitHub. Maybe you are still working, you're tweaking around, and you do not want those changes to be reflected. Then this allows you to control. Staging is nothing but you can say which files to be pushed to GitHub, which you still want to work on it.
So I think if I need to push all my whatever project that I've done and one app is completed. So if I need to do this to push it to Git, then I go and open up like controller, and from there all the file one by one, style.css, I18, and I just have to keep on adding all of those individually, so that if I open it in Visual Studio, it works, right? Instead of saying that, I don't see a Fiori app or a web app there.
Correct.
Okay.
So in BAS, you have all these plugins available, so you need not worry. If you're Visual Studio Code, then only you have to install Git panel, etc. Else, everything is same in both the places. It's no change at all. So all the commands will work. All the applicable commands which are documented there, everything will work. Give it a shot. If you are still stuck, I'll just assist you.
Thank you.
And like I was mentioning, right, this wizard, so you can use this wizard and just you can click finish. Once you're done the finish, your application, you can run the application and you can push to GitHub. So likewise, using this templates itself, you can create 2 apps based on element.